Hello and welcome to Movie Mayhem. All right, today we're going to talk about Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. I don't know how I hadn't done this one earlier, in all honesty. I've seen the film so many times, but rewatched this again to show it to somebody because I was really curious how that film would play with someone who's never seen that film or even that genre of films. Again, if you're a fan of Italian horror, most likely you've seen The Beyond. If you're a fan of Fulci, I guarantee you've seen The Beyond at some point. So I really wanted to see how that would play because I think it's a very solid film and a very good example of Fulci's talent as a director. So, The Beyond, 1981, Lucio Fulci this was filmed in U.S. as part of, he did Zombie there, New York Ripper, Manhattan Baby, I believe. Parts of those were filmed there too. Several films where he did, right in that very late 70s, early 80s, where he did part of his films in the U.S. as well. It's just not a zombie film. It is not a zombie film, no matter what the trailers look like. And I kind of like that. It's much more of a supernatural film. Starts out with a witch warlock. I guess spoilers. But again, this channel is always spoilers, so don't worry about that. Being killed in his house by a group of angry mob. And this, of course, curses the house. Very, you get that Amityville feel. Now, what I think this film manages to do with some of Fulci's peers may not have, and even Fulci himself, is the atmosphere. The atmosphere that he captures sells the film. The pacing, the shots, the mood of the lighting, all really work to keep you kind of almost unnerved, unsettled, kind of confused, like what's happening here? Because there's a lot of red herrings and tricks, as it were. Now, Frizzy's score is one of his best. It's this odd, uplifting music almost. If you listen to it without the film, it's almost a positive, and you kind of feel like jazz to hear it. But in the context of the film, it just makes it more unsettling. So you're also stuck watching the film, and especially I recommend watching it a second time when you still remember watching it the first time and kind of looking back at the hints and the things that are there. Yeah, I know Fulci's not the best at really forming a hard narrative, but again, Argento never has been either. But looks cool, and this is the film where Fulci truly shines in showing you what he can do from a visual perspective. There's going to be things that just don't make sense, and in a way, they almost help because my perspective of the film, and I'm curious what you all think here too. Please tell me: were they always in hell? Did they, were these people ever? I believe they were alive at the very beginning of the film, right? And I think at that point where Joe the plumber opened up the wall, I believe that's the point where we transfer and they're already in hell because things don't make sense. Like some of the dead come back to life, kind of. The eye changing of the blind girl, like she was almost. The way I look at it is she was the one who, like, her job was to bring these people together and pull them into hell because she kept repeating that she'd done her job, and she just wanted to be free. So it's almost like she had a mission to do that. And some of the death scenes too, like the acid jar pouring on the lady's face, that makes no sense at all because once she falls down, she's nowhere near the acid. And then she just lays there, waiting forever for that acid to come on her. Now, if we think about it, okay, in a real world scenario, that makes no sense. However, if you've ever had like those nightmares where you can't get away from something, then it makes perfect sense. So that, again, goes back to my theory of why she was they were already in hell. And Warbeck and McCall, they don't realize where they are. they're like new. They've either newly died or newly been sucked down to hell or whatever, but they don't realize it. And they're the ones fighting against it the whole time, whereas everybody else has kind of already been absorbed into that. And we just see maybe their transitions, like the little girl where the blood bath crawls up to her, which, again, beautiful scene. It's so creepy. Even you think maybe it's silly because that would never happen, but it works because it's creepy as hell. And especially if you think into the context, are they still like trying to escape this hell? And we see like glimpses of how those people are being sucked in. Of course, we've got the glorious Fulci eye hate in two different brilliant scenes where the eyes are tortured. And, the person I watched it with had never seen Fulci. It was their first Fulci film. And I was worried they might think it was a bit silly. Because, sometimes if you watch the older movies, you can think, maybe it's the gore is maybe a little silly, maybe the acting isn't so good, it's a little cheap, but they were really, really scared of them. They found it truly terrifying. And the last portion where Warwick and McCall are fighting out against the rising legions of hell in the hospital. I always found it funny that he kept shooting. He shoots him in the head and they automatically die, right? Okay, so the first time he shoots him twice, it didn't work. He shoots him in the head and he dies? Okay, so shoot him in the head. No, he doesn't do that. He keeps shooting him randomly. And then again, I go back to, he's in hell. He can't. He's trying to shoot them in the head, but the forces of hell are preventing him to almost aggravate the futility of trying to escape. So it's like, if you think of the movie as one giant mind game where it's just two people that got sucked into hell and they're just trying to get out, but they don't realize there is no way out. It works on that level. And this is a film where I will watch it over and over, waiting for the last scene. I love the last scene. I think, matching that to the painting in the original and that hellish landscape of just the bleak, nihilistic way it looks, like the gray dystopian corpses, and just goes on forever and ever and ever, and they run, there's nowhere to go, until finally they realize, at the end, they're in hell, and I believe that's why their eyes change. I think they finally understood they're just the servants of hell all along. And that's where I think this film is very different from a zombie film. I love zombie films, obviously, as long as they don't run, with one exception. Maybe we'll talk about that later. I think there is literally one fast zombie film I think is good. But this is not. It's a slow-paced, atmospheric movie with great music. Some of the best acting, for Fulci acting, it's pretty up there. Again, let's not count his early era of comedies and stuff where that stuff is just excellent film. Those of you who haven't seen early Fulci, it's not, most of it is not until about, I think I want to say 68, 69. All of his stuff is either fairly straight dramas and a lot of comedies. They're really good movies. He's a great director. The man is very talented, and I think that's why we see, even in this low budget where he was grinding out a couple movies a year, and if anyone's ever been involved in filmmaking, that's really insane, especially in the era of film. That's some hard work. But that's why we still see those moments of sheer brilliance in there. Even something like the spider scene. That's a good scene. The spider scene where they combine the fake spiders with the real spiders. And of course, we all know spiders don't bite and chew, but hell they do. So I can forgive that. I can forgive these horrible things with the context of the film. And what was surprising to me is even those goofy looking spiders that I've seen 100 times and make fun of, other people watching the film for the first time, they don't see those as goofy looking stupid spiders. They see the real spiders, focus on the real spiders, and never think that those other spiders are obviously fake. They're like, oh my God, spiders are crawling on his face. How is that happening? And if you watch, it's always the fake spider in his face. But I think that's one of the advantages to watching older films that you love. Watch them with somebody who's never seen them before to get their different reactions, because I think that energy can really reinvigorate yourself towards that film. So, overall, The Beyond, obviously, another big thumbs up from Fulci. I think it's a fantastic introduction to Fulci's work. It's a very good introduction to Italian horror as a whole. I mean, again, him being one of the big names of that. And you've got the music there. I think this is overall a excellent example of something it's not a zombie film, right? Which kind of sets it apart from that. And it's not a slasher film or anything else that was more prevalent in the early 80s that you would see. It's a unique genre that you only kind of got with a few things, maybe like Amityville, and there's some other types of films like that, but I think this is a unique take on that. So if you haven't seen it, please watch The Beyond and let me know what you think, because I really have a new passion for it after watching it a few days ago, and I want to know what other people think too. So that's The Beyond. Check it out. We'll, of course, be doing more Fulci. He's got a bazillion titles to go over, and I've barely touched on any. Remember to like, subscribe, check out the Patreon. Always appreciate it, and see you next time.